So today, we're diving into the life of one of the most formidable warrior queens in Indian history. Her name is Rani Durgavati of Gondwana, and her story, well, it's just an incredible tale of strength, brilliant leadership, and an absolute, unwavering commitment to honor.
And this right here, this single sentence, pretty much sums up her entire philosophy. It's the key, really, to understanding every single decision she ever made, right up to her very last moments.
But here's the thing. To really get the weight of that conviction, we're not going to start at the beginning. No, we're jumping right to the end, smack in the middle of chaos, smoke, and steel.
I want you to just picture the scene. The battlefield is pretty much lost. The queen, bleeding from multiple arrow wounds, is surrounded by what was then the most powerful army of the era. Her own forces are scattered, her best commanders have fallen. It's a desperate situation.
This is the central question of her story, isn't it? Her final act wasn't one of surrender. It was an act of ultimate control. And to understand why she made that choice, we need to go back. We need to see the life that led to this single defiant moment.
So let's rewind the clock, because to understand her choice on that battlefield, we have to look at the princess, the wife, and the leader she became long before that final day. So she was born into the legendary Chandela dynasty. I mean, these are the Rajput warriors who built the magnificent Khajuraho temples. So right from the start, you know she was never destined for a quiet, ordinary life. She was trained as a warrior from childhood, and her marriage in 1542, that was a brilliant strategic move, uniting her powerful lineage with the Gond dynasty. But then, just 8 years later, tragedy strikes. Her husband dies, leaving their son, Vir Narayan, only 5 years old. And just like that, Durgavati wasn't just a queen anymore, she was the ruler.
As a young widow, she steps up as Queen Regent and takes complete control of the kingdom. Now, she wasn't alone in this. She relied on the smart counsel of her trusted ministers, Adhar Kayastha and Thakur, to help navigate the incredible complexities of ruling such a vast territory.
And what's amazing is that under her rule, Gondwana didn't just survive, it absolutely thrived. It entered a golden age. So let's take a look at how this young regent transformed her kingdom into a real beacon of prosperity and strength.
Just look at this list. It really shows you the sheer breadth of her achievements. She wasn't just a warrior. She was a brilliant nation builder. From building reservoirs for her people to setting up a justice system that reached 12,000 villages, her focus was always on prosperity and stability. And make no mistake, she was a proven military genius long before the Mughal threat, soundly defeating repeated invasions from rulers like Baz Badr of Malwa.
And look, if you need just one single fact to wrap your head around how wealthy her kingdom was, this is it. The administration was so effective, so prosperous, that people paid their taxes not just in grain or silver, but in gold coins and elephants. That is a sign of incredible wealth.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This praise comes from the most unlikely of sources, Abul Fazl, the court historian of her eventual enemy, Emperor Akbar. You see, even her adversaries had to acknowledge her exceptional skill as a leader, writing about her courage and her firm, effective control over the entire kingdom.
But you know how these things go. All that prosperity, all that strength, it tends to attract some powerful neighbors. And the most powerful neighbor of all was expanding right to her doorstep.
The entire geopolitical map just shifts dramatically in 1562. When Akbar conquered Malwa, that buffer zone between Gondwana and the Mughals, gone. Just like that, Rani Durgavati's kingdom shared a direct border with the ambitious, ever-expanding Mughal Empire. Conflict was no longer just a possibility, it was an inevitability.
So the big question is, why invade? Well, historical sources point to a few key things. First, Akbar's imperial policy was pretty simple: expand. Second, Gondwana's immense wealth was just too tempting of a prize to ignore. And third, the local Mughal general, a guy named Asaf Khan, was ambitious and hungry for glory. Now, some accounts also suggest a more personal and pretty controversial motive, that Khan wasn't just driven by greed for land, but by a desire for the queen herself.
I mean, what she was up against? It was a classic David versus Goliath situation. As you can see, the Mughal army was a professional, centralized war machine. They had modern artillery like cannons and muskets. Durgavati's army, on the other hand, was a decentralized, feudal force with older weapons. Her only real advantage was that she and her soldiers knew the terrain inside and out.
And that, right there, brings us full circle.
Now that we have the full picture of her life, her achievements, and the impossible odds she was facing, let's go back to those final, defining moments on the battlefield of Narai.
So these were her final moments. Her commanders are gone, so she leads the defense herself. She and her son fight so fiercely that they actually push the massive Mughal army back 3 separate times. But the numbers are just too great. She's struck by an arrow near her ear, then another pierces her neck. She faints, and when she regains consciousness, she knows the battle is lost. Her elephant driver begs her, "Let's escape," but she refuses. For her, capture meant humiliation. So true to her lifelong motto, she takes her own dagger, choosing an honorable death over a disgraceful life.
And that sacrifice she made on June 24, 1564, it was never forgotten. That day is now officially commemorated in India as Balidan Divas, or Martyrdom Day, a powerful tribute to her ultimate act of defiance.
And I just want you to think about this number for a second. 51. 51! In her 16 years as a ruler, she fought and won 51 wars. She wasn't some queen who fought one final, famous battle. She was a career military commander with an absolutely incredible track record of victory.
You see, her legacy isn't just something in a history book. It's woven right into the fabric of modern India. A university bears her name. A postal stamp honors her sacrifice. There's even a Coast Guard patrol vessel that sails in her name. And her story, that story of choosing death over subjugation, became a powerful inspiration for freedom fighters centuries later.
So if we boil it all down, what are the key takeaways from her incredible story? First, she was a hands-on, courageous warrior who led from the front. Second, she was a skilled administrator who built a thriving kingdom. Third, she is the ultimate symbol of self-respect. Fourth, a unifying leader who brought different powerful dynasties together. And finally, she remains this enduring inspiration for anyone who values independence and honor.
And that really leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? We know her story because it was recorded, even by her enemies. But it just makes you wonder, how many other stories of incredible courage and sacrifice just like Rani Durgavati's are still out there, hidden, waiting to be told?